I used to sit at home and scroll reels of edits of my favorite movies instead of actually watching any new movies.
And then I tried to do that strategy and it didn't work.
But now I sit at home and watch new movies. But I still haven't gone outside. But anyway, here's a video. In the past, when I would actually feel compelled to watch a movie, at least 75% of the time, it would be a rewatch. I found it difficult to branch out and watch newer movies because I get bored easily. This year, I've seen 100 movies already with very few rewatches, and I think I've gained some insight into how to fix this. I haven't seen anyone online talk about this, but I'm willing to bet I'm not alone. If you're anything like I was, I hope this helps. What you need to realize first is that not every movie is as entertaining as your favorite movies, but judging a film based on its pacing alone will actually just lead to boredom. The first thing I did was to start viewing every film from a language learning lens. And that's basically where you watch every film as if you're completely blind to the language of film and you're trying to understand it as if it's new. You're not exactly pretending to have never seen a movie before, but you need to realize you've never seen this movie before. Wherever it takes you has to be okay and welcome if you want hope of not becoming bored. This lens will also help you view things from a directorial angle more, because the more films you watch from one director, the more you'll notice their own personal linguistic abilities and tendencies in the cinematic format. It helps you to grasp style. Like, for example, Zack Snyder's style is homoerotic aura farming with a lot of CGI. Anyway, one of the things that actually got me stuck is I was so focused on re-experiencing the things I already knew I liked when I should have been trying to look for something that I hadn't seen before. Something you'll notice with a lot of up-and-coming artists is that they're often praised for their new ideas rather than their refinement of the craft. And with careers that have longevity, they not only top themselves, but they actually shift the scales towards refinement as they get older. Take Martin Scorsese, whose films are also incredibly homoerotic, by the way. At a younger age, he was certainly talented, but his earlier acclaimed works like Raging Bull and Taxi Driver came more from a place of trying new things and experimenting, whereas his new popular movies like The Irishman and Wolf of Wall Street are more refined, but ultimately less novel. Now, there's no value judgment on either of those two things, but what I'm saying is that as a beginner film watcher, who maybe has more of an interest than the average person, but still hasn't educated themselves fully by watching all the right movies, you should be looking for new things every day until your taste becomes more refined. That isn't to say that I have better taste than any of you. I'm also learning. I also think a lot of times people don't realize how many mediocre movies they've seen in their life. I mean, it seems obvious that the films people most often revisit are likely the ones that grab them and enthrall them in some way. So at least I had this habit of expecting new films to scratch the correct itch, most likely one that another film had already scratched, and then being disappointed when it wasn't the correct feeling I wanted to get. This is where boredom just thrives. If you watch films expecting to never be bored and expecting to feel certain things, you'll inevitably disappoint yourself and subvert your own expectations. Let films take you where they want to take you and don't try to steer too much. You'll never be able to completely rid yourself of predispositions and biases, but try to allow the filmmaker to play with those freely without intentionally suppressing them or trying to watch a film in order to feel a specific emotion. Let the film tell you what to feel, and then it'll become so much easier to understand what people are trying to communicate through their filmmaking. Try to focus on the positive. Like, that sounds stupid, but try to parse out what the film you're watching is actually doing the best out of all the things that it's doing. It can be kind of hard, but the more you actively try to look for the strengths in different films, the more you'll be able to actually notice what certain films are actually doing well. I used to be more script brain, which I think is really common, subconsciously judging films based solely on the script. As I started to watch more stuff, though, I started to see the many different languages and facets of a film more holistically and clearly. Now, I'm still obviously learning, like all of you guys, but that's exactly the mindset that I think is important to have. One where you're looking for something to learn while watching a movie. I would have never been able to enjoy Koyaanisqatsi if I had stayed in that script plot brain mindset. That shit has no plot. Okay, so this is the most boring tip, but the more movies you watch and the more you try to seek out new and exciting films, the faster you'll discover new favorites. If you're someone who's stuck rewatching things or just doesn't watch as many movies as they wish they did, just sticking to a consistent, no expectations routine can help you rediscover that flame which drove you to want to see more films in the first place. Also, having a routine really helps me personally to actually sit down and get started, especially if you live in an environment with a lot of distractions. Wearing headphones can help a lot. and turn off the subtitles.
Are we that cooked that we need to be staring at a fucking constant stream of AI-generated fucking closed captions in order to understand what we're...
This is something I learned from my high school science teacher, so yeah, this is fucking science, but basically it can be helpful for focus to do nothing and essentially just try to notice your own thoughts without judgment as a meditation practice. Now, the same concept, even though it sounds kind of dumb, can be applied to watching movies by intentionally trying to just notice and not pass judgment on not only aspects of the film, but also your personal experience with the film.
Stop fighting. Let it flow.
This especially helps with films that might be construed as boring, because if you're not in 100% entertained out-of-body state, you can still enjoy and notice what's happening just by letting it come to you and relaxing. Like I said earlier, don't search for a feeling, let it happen. Obviously that transcendent state that I hope you've gotten to experience is amazing, but just realize that you don't need to force yourself not to think and try to pour focus in at the wrong time. If you're feeling slightly detached from the events going on, you can relax your brain by just trying to notice the thoughts you're having and having little conversations in your own head. If you've ever gone to sleep early with the intention of just laying in bed and not trying to force yourself to sleep, it's similar. You're just letting your brain do what it needs to do.
Am I making any fucking sense? Anyway.
Another thing is, older movies can be harder to watch at first if you're used to 21st century films, like especially Film Bro starter pack movies. But what you have to realize is that plenty of generations of people found these movies super entertaining. And if you actually try to view a few with the reverence that you might have expected when they first came out, you'll start to do it subconsciously, and eventually you won't have to try for these films to be entertaining and keep your attention. It's just a little bit of a different language, like I said earlier, and once you start understanding the different time period like flourishes, you'll also start to be able to understand ultimate quality better. When old heads say like, modern movies suck or they don't make them like they used to, I think it's because they're just more used to the language of older movies in the same way the younger people are used to newer ones. When it comes to actually judging the quality of something divorced from time period, I like to use this analogy where basically it's a giant stack of turtles, okay? And the very bottom turtles are the oldest movies, like 1890s, whatever, and the top are the new ones. And the movies that are on the top, they have access to all the knowledge of the ones before, but the turtles in the middle, like they might not have all the knowledge of everyone. The way you judge a film's quality then is not necessarily that it's near the top, but actually how tall the turtle is. How much taller did it make the stack of turtles? So if you think of a turtle at the top of the stack, it's gonna be easier to consume. It's gonna have more access to filmmaking techniques that can make it entertaining, but it might not be as innovative and progressive for the entire medium of film as an earlier movie. Like High and Low or like The Godfather is gonna be a way taller turtle than fucking The Emperor's New Groove. One more helpful thing, and one of my favorite tips, is track your progress. Watching films isn't exactly a hard thing to do in itself, but educating yourself on the medium is certainly a grind. If you want, you can use Letterboxd, but I also just have a list of movies I've seen in like the Notes app on my phone. It can be really rewarding to just write out a little bit about your thoughts on a movie so you can go back and look through it later. That's why I like the Notes app, because it's not public, so I can write literally anything and it becomes kind of like a journal. This also helps with remembering everything you've watched. It's kind of fun to go back and revisit your reviews, and you'll be surprised how many movies you suddenly recall watching even if you completely forgot about them. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you next time.